Okay. All right. So, do you have your journals? Okay. So, are we ready to jump in? Okay. So, in preparing for today's lab, I came across, you know what, before I even get started, let me also ask this question because I want to make sure I don't reference it in case not everybody has watched it. Has everybody here had an opportunity to watch that video snippet I put in the main room? The black guy who's really talking about this topic of white people calling out. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Show of
yeah.
hands. Who's watched that? Okay. So everybody here so far has watched that. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I wouldn't be referencing it if there was somebody who hadn't seen it. Okay. So as I was preparing for today, I came across a quote and I said, wow, it really caught my attention for so many reasons. And I said to myself, I want to be able to utilize this quote in our session, but I'm not quite sure how I want to weave it in. And so I sat with it and I chewed and I chewed and I chewed. And then finally it came to me. I said, you know what? I'm not going to weave it in. I am going to slap it right at the front end. I'm just going to put it out there and I'm going to read it to you word for word. And then I am going to ask a single question about it. Um, Let me know if it takes you aback as much as it took me aback. Because there was like one word in particular that really drew me in. So, are we ready for this? So I'm going to ask you to just listen intently at each word I'm saying. This is a quote, and I'm going to call it anonymous, but a Black person actually wrote these words. All right, so here we go. A white person calling out a Black or brown person is never neutral, even when they're right. Even when the harm is real. Close quote. Let me just let that sit for a moment before I issue my question. And I'm actually going to read it again. Just going to read it again. A white person calling out a Black or brown person is never neutral, even when they're right, even when the harm is real. Close quote. Everybody in this room, with the exception of me, is racially identified white. And so, my question for you is when you hear something like that, how do you, as a white person, unpack that?
I can go.
Okay.
I understand that as the same reason that reverse racism doesn't exist. It's about
Mm-hmm.
the system and the power. So that's how I heard that.
Okay. See another hand. Liz.
I hear never neutral, to me, that doesn't necessarily translate to it should never happen, but I have to, if it happens, I need to know it's not happening from a standpoint the same as if I'm doing it to a white individual. That
Mm-hmm.
neutrality will never be there. So to me, that doesn't mean it can never happen, but it needs to happen with so much more care, so much more consideration and intentionality. So
Mm, mm. Okay. Anybody else? Joe, I see your.
Yeah, it's tentative because it's not a very fully formed thought, but there's something about we're all racialized as something. So even our bodies are not neutral.
Mm,
So it doesn't actually, it's not about what we say, it's about just the whole presentation. It's not neutral because it's coming from us.
mm. Hmm. Anybody else? Amy.
I guess I would agree with Joe. I think that what strikes me about it and remembering our first community together is that while, between intent and impact,
Mm-hmm.
and that because of the power dynamic and this systemic nature of racism in this country, I don't see, I think it's the same as reverse racism. I think that it's just not very easily done or going to be, um, I think 9 times out of 10, it would be handled wrong by a white person.
Mm. 9 times out of 10, huh?
Probably 10 out of 10.
Probably 10 out of 10. What word in that quote do you think captured my attention? What do you think I was drawn to? I'm just curious.
Mm.
Even if
Okay, even if.
Harm is real.
Mm.
Never?
That you're
Never.
close. You're close with the never because I kept thinking about the word neutral, and then that led me down the path to thinking about neutrality and why, for me, even that can never really exist. So then I started going down the path of why might that be the case for me in terms of how I'm thinking about that quote? And of course, again, knowing that this quote is coming from a Black person, I started thinking about, you know what? There's issues like there's power, right? There's history, there's unaddressed trauma, there is there is reconciliation that has never formally happened. There has not been formal reparations. There's so much gap. There's so much that has gone unspoken and undone that it makes neutrality impossible. But at the same time, it also makes it very important for us to understand that how do we then navigate those nuances around something that gets said or something that's done. So today, what I want to do is I want to hear from the five of you in terms of what you would determine or declare to be your hard no. I'm not going down that path. I am not calling out a Black or a brown person on X, Y, and Z. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you and then just quickly go down memory lane. In our first iteration of community, is it safe for me to say that each and every one of you was greener than you are now? Because if we're going to start
hope
talking
so.
colors, we're going to talk black, white, gray. Now we're going to talk green. Is it safe to say that all of you were greener than you are now? So if you recall, my position was don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to get dragged. You're not equipped. Do not go down this path. Let Black folks call out Black folks. Let brown folks call out brown folks. Just don't touch it. And so something happened recently, and it was a comment that I made to both Amy and to Liz. I put something in the community around the call out piece of calling out Black and brown folks, white people doing that, right? And this isn't a new idea or something new that we're thinking about because if each and every one of you remembers, even though she's not here today, Jen, her extended reach is with a Black woman. Do you recall? Yes. So Jen is doing it, and there are some nuances associated with that. But right now, I want to get us grounded in what you would consider to be your hard nose. So, what you see up on the screen are my instructions for what I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do. I want you to write down 3 specific scenarios or contexts or situations or moments, whatever you want to call them. I want you to write down 3 specific ones that for you as a white person, you believe that you should never, ever, not gonna do it, call out a black or a brown person. And I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to write down those 3. And I want you to be as specific as you can with that hard no in case we get an opportunity to surface some things around it. What questions do you have for me before I set my timer for 5 minutes? Okay, let's set the timer for 5 minutes. All right, let's come back together then. Let me go ahead and turn my timer off. Okay, so that was about 4 minutes then. Okay, so we're just 1 minute shy of the full 5. Okay, so everybody have like 3 specific situations that would be hard no's for you where you're like, I am not calling out a black or a brown person on this. Okay, here's what I want to do. Round robin, I'd like for you to be willing to give one of yours. It doesn't have to be the first thing that you wrote down, but your choice. Pick one of those and just share it with the group. And all I want is the share. We're not going to say anything until I've heard all 5 of them. And then I'll just open it up to any comments or thoughts. And if I feel so inclined, I will share mine. All right. So who's up first? One of yours, one of your hard no's. Okay, Amy, I saw your hand go up. What's one of your hard no's?
A hard no is as a justification or defense response to a black or brown person calling me in or out.
Okay. All right, I'm processing that. Okay. All right. Who's next? Okay. Joe F., I think I saw your hand go.
My difficulty is that mine's really wide, which meant I only ended up with 2 because one of them's so broad, and so I didn't get very specific. But
Okay.
actually, my first one is I think I shouldn't do it if it's not within a known relationship with someone.
Okay.
So outside of an existing relationship.
Okay. All right. And I forget where the other hand was. Help me out, you all. Evan, I'm seeing this across my screen.
All right, prefacing this by saying after the community a couple years ago,
Uh-huh.
my knee jerk now is to never anyway call out a black or brown person.
Okay.
That was my takeaway from that. And that resonated with me for whatever reason. But the one that I wrote down is when the numbers are not in the black or brown person's favor. In other words, if there's only one black person in the room.
Ah. And when you say there's only one black person in the room, and that black person is the person you're calling out, not one additional, but just
Correct.
that person is the only person in the room, and that would be the person
Correct.
that you would never call out.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Okay. Joe C., what do you have?
I have like more theoretical than a specific content one. I think, it's aligned with what Joe F was saying. If I have no relationship with the person,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do it.
You're not going there.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. And then Liz.
I had that I don't know all of the people in the vicinity, and that all of the black or brown people in the vicinity, and I would be the only person addressing the harm. So the
Okay.
relationship aspect for me needs to be the majority of the people in the vicinity needs to be people that I have a relationship with.
Got it. So not just the person, but people, proximity as well.
Mhm.
Okay. Any thoughts or comments on anything that you all have heard? Amy.
Well, my rule of thumb is along the same lines as Evan. There is not many there without a very intimate relationship, meaning like a true friendship or loving relationship. I don't think I would ever attempt it, but I also know how um and this has come to light through community, and something that I'm working on is that,
Mhm.
in giving my own context, I can, you know, very easily get into that back and forth with someone. And so that's why
Mhm.
I chose the example that I did. But other than that, I don't envision, other than, my stance of just having a conversation and curiosity with people that I know and love. I am similar to Joe, just not going to do it.
Okay. All right. Oh, Josie, I see your hand.
I was just going to offer the observation. I appreciate what Liz was saying, and I had a similar additional one that was about like, what is the context around me and the person? Who else is there? I
Mhm.
just appreciate like, there's no time, going back to the quote that you shared, there's never going to be a time when that's not important to stop and go, wait a second, So that was really stuck out to me.
Okay. Okay.
I think also too, like if our call out would be in the form of the same type we would give to say a white person, like, hey, you're in the wrong or something like that, then that's the wrong way as well. So
Yeah. So even before I get to having you do part two, let me just go ahead and share with you two things that will be very important to this piece or this iteration of our growth and development as impactivists in this space. The relationship piece is indeed very, very important. It is critical. But I would also ask people to think about if you're defining relationship the same way as the person who you're calling out defines it. Because I have been in situations where people feel like they have a relationship with me, but actually you don't. So I would ask people to really think through, how are you prioritizing the narrative around relationship? Also, something else that's going to be key, and it's something that Joe F. surfaced a little while ago. The curiosity approach or the question approach is probably one of the safest call out and call in methods that you can do, no matter the hue of the person. That one to me is such the universal, less risky approach. My concern for all of you as white people when you call out, or if you decide to call out Black or brown people, is, and I'm just going to be blunt, that you're going to be put in a situation that you're not fully equipped to handle. And that would mean if there's any type of back and forth that goes on, as we would say, you might get dragged. How do you handle getting dragged? What words will come out for you? Will you be triggered by any type of justifiable counterpoints that may come up, especially if the person decides in that moment that they're going to surface some of your dumb fuckery? So then how does that then land with you? And then what does that do to the call out that you initiated? So there's so many nuances to this. And so I totally get it if there are people here that say, you know what? I'm just not doing it. I'm just not going to go down that path. I am still continuing uh, to learn and unlearn so much about this space and to learn and to unlearn so much about myself. But again, that probably is a whole nother learning lab to talk about the potential dangers of taking that kind of wholehearted stance. Here's part two. That list of three or two, whatever boat you're in, I'm going to need you to assign 2 rankings to those 3 or 2 situations that you have, and I'll feed them to you one at a time. The first one is what I'm going to call your discomfort ranking. What I need for you to do is I need for you to rank those 3 from the most uncomfortable for you personally to the least uncomfortable for you personally. And you use whatever ranking system that you want just so you can keep it straight for yourself. Most uncomfortable for you personally to the least uncomfortable to you personally. Do that ranking first. I'm calling that one your discomfort ranking. And let me even write that down for myself, the discomfort ranking. All right.
Do you mean the situation we wrote down would make us uncomfortable? Or the call out that we're describing would make us uncomfortable?
The call out or the call in. Okay, which one would make you most uncomfortable to the least uncomfortable? Okay. And thank you, Liz, for that clarifying question. Okay, the call out. And so I'll make sure I clean up the second ranking to make sure it's clear. Thank you for that. All right, we're ready to move to the second ranking? All right, second ranking, I need for you now to take those items and I need for you to rank them from the most harmful to the Black or brown person to the least harmful to the Black or brown person if you were to proceed with the call out. Most harmful to the Black or brown person to the least harmful to the Black or brown person if you're going to go ahead and proceed with the call out or the call in. Okay, so that's we're going to call that one the harm ranking. So we've got a discomfort ranking. And we've got a harm ranking. Okay. All right, let me stop sharing my screen for a moment so that I can see everyone. Okay. Raise your hand if there are gaps between your discomfort ranking and your harm ranking. Gaps? Raise your hand if there's gaps.
What's a gap?
Somebody tell Evan what a gap is.
It's where D1 doesn't equal H1.
Not helping.
So if the ones align, if the twos align, if the threes align, so if they're not in order, so
Thank you.
D1 is discomfort, H1 is harm.
I have gaps.
Amy, I saw your hand up.
So on the harm side, mine are almost harmful. Was that bad? Do I have to? Did I not?
I'm not assigning any type of judgment or any type of conclusion because you're going to be the one to interpret. Because here's what I want you to jot down in your journal before I send you to the breakout room. Okay? So whether we're calling it gaps or whether we're calling it differences or whether we're calling it alignment, misalignment, whatever it is, I want you to think about what the discomfort ranking looks like compared to the harm ranking. Let's look at it that way because that will alleviate any type of mystery or confusion. All I want you to do is just look at the two side by side and I want you to think about what is surfacing for you. What do these two rankings tell you about yourself? What do they tell you or reveal about you? And I'm going to give you a few minutes to just think about that. And I'm not going to ask you to say it out loud. It's not even going to be what I ask you to talk about in the breakout room. This is just for your journaling. When you see these two rankings side by side and you know what they represent, what do the two potentially surface or reveal about you? So again, you've got a discomfort ranking, which points to you. And then now you've got a harm ranking that points to the black or brown person if you were to proceed with the call out. That's all I can say on this. And I am specifically and deliberately being a little cryptic because I need to for right now. And for those of you that are smiling, you might kind of understand why. That's all I can say. Okay. One is you, one is black or brown people. Both of them have to do with you calling out and proceeding with it. Okay. Journal, just 1 minute. Just start journaling. What is this telling you about you? What is it revealing? Or what is it making you question about you? Okay. Let me just go ahead and set this so that I can stay on track because we're already a little bit after half past the hour. All right. My timer is set for about 1 minute. Mm, mm. Hmm. Oh, there it is. Okay. Before I send you to the breakout room, I need to ask you something. And I'm probably asking you this because I was very intrigued by two people's particular facial expression. Why am I asking you to look at the two rankings side by side and to just kind of journal or think through some things about you? Because I'm using both of these rankings, if you think about it, I'm kind of using them right now like a mirror. Why am I asking you about these two rankings and you, Amy?
Well, for me, it landed that I needed to look at the fact that I'm willing to be less uncomfortable in situations that even have the same potential for maximum harm.
Mm,
Because
mm,
my,
Mm.
when I look at it from the lens of, okay, what am I most uncomfortable with to what I'm least uncomfortable with, I was able to rank those. When it
mm-hmm,
came to the three and looking at harm, the
mm-hmm,
potential of harm was there for all three. Not a little harm, not a lot harm, harm is harm.
mm-hmm,
So why would I why would I be less comfortable in any situation that would cause harm?
mm,
Or more comfortable. Sorry, why would I be more comfortable in approaching something that still could cause harm?
mm. And did you also notice how I positioned the first ranking? Because I opted to use the expressions most uncomfortable to least uncomfortable.
Mhm.
The word comfort never showed up, did it?
Mm-mm.
Never showed up.
Mm-mm.
So just something to be mindful of. Anybody else, any thoughts on why I would ask you to look at these two rankings? Joe F.
Um, whether you're thinking about white centering or centering the marginalized
Mhm.
viewpoint.
Mhm.
Mm, mm. This is getting juicy. This is getting kind of juicy. Anybody else before I say, oh, Joe C.
Yeah. I think you deliberately created a cognitive dissonance for us, which is why I laughed when you did it because I was like, "Ooh, I'm
I
gonna have
saw
to
you.
I'm gonna have to get in here and get a look after my sneaky self because it's definitely, operating." So that's
I
why I
saw
appreciate
you.
it.
I saw you. Your facial expressions was one of the facial expressions. I
Was
saw
the
it.
other?
I'm not saying.
Because
The person knows.
I know
The
that
person knows.
I know that I probably made a face, but
Person knows. The person knows. Okay, so let's go ahead and put up the breakout room assignment because again, we're inching up on the clock here. Only because just on the fly I said I need to ask them this. So I'm behind schedule, but what else is new? I usually am. Okay, so here are the instructions for the breakout room. And it's not really instructions, it's really here's the question that I want to have you talk about. So obviously there will be one pair and then there will be a trio. What did your discomfort ranking and harm ranking reveal about your, and I'm calling it your call out reflex or your call in reflex? Notice that this is different from what I just asked you to journal about. This one now is different. And I'm not going to tell you how it's different. I'm just hoping that the way it's phrased and positioned this time will signal to you that it's different. I'm not going to ask you what questions you have. I'm going to send you straight to the breakout room and I'm only going to send you there for 10 minutes. Again, I've got a pair and I've got a trio. And this slide question will be available to you in the breakout room. So we'll make sure we share it there. So let's go. Let's see if we can hang out for 10 minutes. All right. Call out or call in reflex. Okay. I'm looking at facial expressions across the screen. Facial expressions. Okay. Anybody have anything that they want to share with the group before I segue into what is going to be introspective moments that we have left? Anything pop out or jump out that you feel like, oh, everybody needs to hear this?
I could throw something in that like it was how we concluded ours. Liz kind of like activated me to think about that question, like this next phase of learning to do what we're walking us through is going to require a lot more information. Like, because that was one of the answers I had to that was, oh, I'm pretty used to operating with a lot less information than I'm going to need to do this if I ever do it, which I'm not even sure I feel comfortable doing. And not, I just mean safety. Like, I'm not going to do it unless I have a lot more. Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing that. There is so much context. There are so many variables. One of the things that you'll notice as we're going into even talking about this piece is I will not be able to give you a strict or rigid script. There are always going to be exceptions. There are also going to be different things that you'll need to consider. Every single situation will have its own particular nuance that you'll need to navigate. But one of the things that I do want to say about the question that I sent you to the breakout room to answer is this. It wasn't, that question wasn't just a matter of you determining what's right or wrong per se. It was really about starting to think about and examine how, and this goes back to something that Joe F was saying earlier. This also goes and plays into what is your body or your fear or your conditioning leading you to protect as it relates to this call out or call in reflex? And I'm calling it the call out, call in reflex. There are so many considerations. It's really a holistic endeavor, isn't it? And so, one of the things that I want each and every one of you to be mindful of is be on the lookout for any type of whiteness that shows up, like moral positioning or disguised as moral positioning or a moral referee, so to speak, because the danger is in calling out or calling in Black or brown people. Whiteness centering is a real risk, and you will get dragged for it. And because Black and brown people typically have a PhD in whiteness and racism, we will call you on that dumb fuckery in a heartbeat. So then everything that you just said to us to call us out or in, that now goes out the window, because now guess what? You just showed up with some whiteness centering, and we're going to need to deal with that first, because I'm going to need to drag you a bit on this. So that is a real possibility. And even me saying something like that does not sound like I'm welcoming you to enter into this space, but it's going to take practice. It is going to take a whole lot of you really determining, like almost on the fly, I need to evaluate certain things, but you're going to have to be able to do it almost like split second, right? This particular learning lab for me is like an orientation or an entryway into us going deeper with this, because at a certain point, I am going to be the guinea pig. I am going to have you call me out on certain things that I'm going to say deliberately, and I'm going to get you to practice with me calling me out. And we're going to see how that all works out. Sometimes it may go well. Sometimes it's not going to end well for you. It's not going to end well for you at all. And I want to see how you handle yourself in that situation. Go ahead and let's go ahead and put up my closing thorns, because again, this is kind of like the orientation. But here are some things that I can tell you that I want you to hold on to, and I'll elaborate in community with a couple of posts in the next couple of days. Some of this you've already said, especially as it relates to the relationship piece. So as we go into this particular competency around impactivism, I'm going to be asking folks to consider what I call a 3R lens. I do a lot with alliteration in the work that I do, whether it's a 3C this or a 3D that. I've got the 3R lens here for everybody, and I'm calling that relationship, readiness, and relevance. Your picks, it's okay to put full screen for me. I'll just look at the copy that I have because I want to see faces. All right, so I'm going to look at my copy because I want to see faces instead of my shared screen. All right, so what I mean by relationship is something that we've kind of already touched on, and you all already know. There's got to be a relationship in place. You should not be calling out strangers for the most part. And again, rule of thumb, you should not be calling out people that you do not know from Adam. All right. And when I say relationship, there needs to be some type of reciprocity there. There needs to be some type of established trust. Is there mutuality in what you're calling a relationship? Is there consent? Is there some level of care that lets you know that, yes, I have a relationship with this person? So that's already one criteria, right? The readiness piece is this person in a space where they are ready to receive this? Are they in a space where they're able to take this in? That's going to be a big part of it. You're going to have to be able to assess the readiness, and we'll get into that a little bit more. And then the relevance. Is what you're about to call out or call in this person, is it yours to say? Or is it best done by somebody else? And I'm specifically using the expression, is it yours to say? Or does it belong to somebody else? So those are the 3 R's, okay? Who does the moment belong to? That's also another consideration. I'm not going to tell you right now what that means. I'm going to let that one sit with you. Who does the moment belong to? And then the last one is, why am I doing this? Are you wanting to be right? Are you wanting to interrupt harm? What's your motive? because now we're going to come full circle to that opening quote that I read to everybody, because you're going to always have to remember that even when you're right to call out, and even what you're calling out is right, the calling out itself of a Black or a brown person is never neutral. It just never is. That's a whole lot of heavy stuff for me to say to people who were green a couple of years ago, but who are now less green, though, right? There's no black and white on this area. It is gray. Some of us are not comfortable navigating the gray. Come to terms with that. There's going to be a lot of gray. Joe F., hand up.
It's just something I've still been thinking about from our group, and I was thinking about the comfort levels, and I came
Yes.
out with a different thought about the comfort levels. I
Mhm.
think sometimes if our whiteness comes in, we're very comfort with certain type, we're more comfortable with covert racism than overt racism. So we're quick to say, oh yeah, you can't say the N-word. We all know that rule. But we
Mhm.
don't say, oh my goodness, the systemic way of like making sure your people are always disadvantaged. We're much more comfortable with like, oh yeah, that's just how we live. That's just capitalism. So I think there's something about thinking about comfort from also the context we're in.
Yeah. Yeah. And it reminds me of one of the very first posts that we had in this iteration of community, where the woman was on the playground and she was actually calling this very small child the N word. It's very, very easy for us to distance ourselves from that kind of thing because we know that's blatant, that's just overt, that's just wrong, versus what's the system that created her being able to even say that in the first place? Are we calling out more of that, and also the codes and the signals that come with that? Liz, I see your hand up as well.
So the readiness aspect is interesting because when I read that, I didn't read readiness about them because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm an expert in reading readiness of other people.
Mm-hmm.
The readiness of me, I feel like I still don't know how to connect with what that experience is for me. Um, so the readiness, I think I interpreted it differently.
Mm,
So, but I think I will need to think about that.
mm. And I'm actually glad you brought up readiness, because I am specifically putting those three in that order: relationship, readiness, and relevance. The readiness, you might think, well, who am I to determine if a black or a brown person is in a space to be able to receive this? Guess what? If you're wondering that, or how am I supposed to know, what you really should be questioning is the relationship, which comes first. The relationship is the foundation. If you have the kind of relationship that you think you have, you should be able to have some kind of indication that this person has the readiness or not for you to say whatever it is you're about to say, or call out whatever you're about to call out. So think of relationship is like that precursor to readiness. And I see another hand, Amy.
I think one of the things that Evan and I discussed in our breakout room that stuck with me was just, and it keeps coming back to me as we talk about the relationship readiness and relevance. Who does the moment belong to? Why am I doing this? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's really about, when I look at the discomfort of you know, what I could see being the most uncomfortable, that I had the most discomfort around, to the least discomfort around. The fact is that regardless of the ranking on that side, I was
Mm-hmm.
still willing to center my own sense of ability before centering the fact that harm would be caused by Joe,
Thank you. Thank you.
in any of the scenarios.
Mm.
So I think that, you know, the motive behind is something that is definitely, you know, so strong, even when you're in relationship.
Mm. Mm.
Because sometimes, you know, we hurt the people that we love the most because we think that relationships will save us sometimes. And so just have to constantly be vigilant around, you know, motive and just the centering piece.
Yeah. This is some heavy stuff. This is some heavy stuff. And I would imagine that probably the majority of the people in our community, even though we know it will be a simulation, I suspect that there will be people in this community that will be nervous about going through some simulations with me where you're calling me out specifically around things that I'm going to put in and just say, okay, you're up, Amy. Okay, Joe F., you're up. Evan, you're up. I have just said this. I have just done this. And I want you to assume that it is a context and a situation that has met all of the criteria. And now you are calling me out. Let's hear how you're going to do it and let's see what happens. That's where we're going to be going next, but not until I feel like I've prepared you a little bit more in community around some of the additional things that I'm going to wrap around what we just did. This was just an orientation. I don't know at what point we'll embark on the you calling me out piece, but we'll see. But I'm 2 minutes over and I'm very respectful of people's time. So I'm gonna let you go. This was heavy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And
Bye.
thank you, Joe F. I know this is very late for you, my dear.
No, it's good. I'm going to go to bed now, but it was good.
Happy to see you all.
Great
Bye-bye.
to see you all as well. Take care.
Take
Thank you.
care.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.